I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello everyone, welcome to Campfire Talk. This is where we sit around the fire, put our feet up with a cold drink, and let the conversation flow. Fred in Alaska, our good friend, is joining us today, and he and Forrest both have new updates. Fred's from yesterday, Forrest is from this morning. So Tom, you want to make an announcement before we get going?
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Today's show is going to be pretty amazing. They all are, in my honest opinion, but this one's going to be specifically or particularly amazing. Also, if you like the show, let us know. Click the like and the subscribe button. Even if I can't pronounce it, you guys know what to do. And I want to welcome some people who have joined us as Patreons, and that would be Anastasia and Christopher. That would be Eric, BC, Rose, and if I have forgot somebody who had just joined us on Patreon, please shoot us an email and questions@creekdevil.com and say you forgot me, and you're not supposed to do that. That said, you can support the show with the like and subscribe. You guys know how to do that. And if you want to go the extra mile, like these new Patreons just did, go to patreon.com/creekdevil, or there's a link in the YouTube channel in the description, and just click the link and follow your nose. So that said, Will, I'm going to hand the mic back to you.
All right. Yeah, we really appreciate the likes, folks, because that's how other people get to find the show. That's how their algorithm works. So if you can, do us a favor, it doesn't cost anything. Just click the like button if you like the episode, and that helps it get out to other people out there. I don't know who to start with first. Fred found a line of tracks yesterday that are really good, and he put that on his channel. And Fred can tell us about that in just a moment. And then, Forrest, you found some prints this morning, correct?
Yes, I did. And I don't even want to steal Fred's thunder because I've already looked at all of his and watched his video, too. And I'm totally impressed, Fred. Totally. You know that. But yeah, I walked out this morning to let cats out of the cat house, and there were barefoot prints, and they weren't down in the soft dirt in front of the cat house. They were actually in the out on the driveway where it's gravelly, and I mean you could see. Of course, there's dirt, soft dirt, and stuff like that out there too, and there's prints out there, and they're. I mean, if it's human, the toes are very widely spaced, and the foot is wide. I mean, I haven't sent you all the pictures yet because I didn't want to steal Fred's thunder this morning. So I'm going to make this short and brief. So I will send the pictures to you, and y'all can make of them what you think. And so I'm still studying them, but it was just, I thought, why would somebody be out there with bare feet walking on my caliche driveway? So anyway, that's what I got to tell you. I just thought that was very peculiar. So anywho, and they're very wide, and they're not particularly long. They look they're not quite as even long as my foot. So, and they're quite wide.
Rhetorical question. Is it nice and cool, weather? You wouldn't want to be walking on the driveway in super hot weather. Did I get that right or wrong?
Oh, Tom, I love you, dear. It was only 100. It was only 107 here yesterday. It was 110 the day before, and I have no I hadn't even looked at my thermometer. I get tired of looking at it because it doesn't seem to change any. Oh, well, a major announcement hit. It's 110 right now.
Good grief.
So you could cook eggs on the driveway.
And yeah, pretty much. If you wanted sandy, gravelly eggs, yeah, you could. So, I'm so sick of it. Fred, I'm just going to find me a place up there. I'm headed back to Alaska.
I'll keep an eye out for you.
I love my Texas, but I tell you what, I sure am getting tired of this hot weather. Oh heavens! So, yeah, I wouldn't be out there walking around in bare feet, Tom. No, because I'm telling you what, it's hot. I stepped out yesterday and I didn't even think about it out on my back porch, and I was doing the Irish jig out there, and y'all know I'm not Irish, so it's just. It's hot, and
well, you're
I can't
Texas.
Imagine.
For us, you're Texas Mediterranean Irish. We all know that.
Yeah. Oh heavens!
Well, Fred, tell us what you found yesterday, and then where everybody listening, if they want to see what you found, tell them where to look for that.
Yeah, definitely. If they want to see the footage, it's under Evidence Expedition Part 1 under Subarctic Alaska Sasquatch on YouTube. So what started out was someone reaching out to me telling me, hey, I don't know what I'm dealing with here, but it's really strange and maybe I can get your opinion on it. And so we went out to where he was having his experience a couple nights before. And as we were talking, we heard some weird noises, but nothing definitive. So, he was kind of, first we found the first track. I sent you a picture of it. It was like 5 a.m. We started way early. And so I told him, well, hey, this is, I'm intrigued. I don't know of anyone that would be walking around out in this crap, barefoot. And so it was just the one or two tracks we saw initially. So, and it was still really dark. So we went back to the area where he was having the weird stuff happen. And as it got later in the day and more light out, I was like, well, let's head back over to where we saw that track and see, what was going on over there or whatever. And as we're cruising along, and I stated in the video, I looked out the window and saw beginnings of a trackway. And so I had him stop and I jumped out, grabbed the camera and just started filming. And so what we speculate is that those tracks are on top of his wheeler tracks that he made 2 nights before. So they were they're roughly 2 days old. We speculate, I say, that it followed them out from that night of weirdness he was having. It was him, his wife, and his 10-year-old daughter. And his 10-year-old daughter was sleeping by the time they made their way out, and it was pitch black out. And they were going just above idle, so they didn't wake their daughter up. So they were basically crawling along in their 4-seater side by side. And we speculate this thing was just following behind them, following them out. And, you guys have seen the video, so some intriguing tracks, the mid-tarsal break, the gripping with the toes and the foot itself, going from just a standard looking footprint to, looking like it was using its foot to grab. It was just really intriguing stuff.
Well, I like the fact that you noticed that, Fred, because that was the thing that I noticed, that it looked like it was clenching its toes and grabbing into that mud. And I actually asked you if that was glacial silt out there. Of course, there's a lot of that glacial, that gray glacial silt. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And but it looked like that right there was kind of had, am I wrong? Did it have a little clay in it possibly? But you can see where it was scrunching up that mid-tarsal in there, and it was making it wasn't like an arch or anything like that.
Hey, Fred.
No, because there was some that were flat and then some that were super high arched, and I can't make my foot do that. You know what I mean?
No, well, we don't have that break in there.
Fred, is that print in the top of the picture another track going in the opposite direction? I don't see toes on it.
Yeah, if you check out the video, it's far more in depth.
Okay.
I go basically from track to track, and just kind of lay it out, and the picture serves it no justice. So when you watch the video, it doesn't do it much better justice, but at least gives you a better idea of what was going on, going back and forth in there.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, and he found handprints too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I thought your video was quite well done, Fred. So don't discount yourself, because you did a good job on it.
Oh, I appreciate that, Forrest. Yeah, and the guy that took me out, initially he was upset, like, I was hoping for the activity they were showing me the other day and this and that. I was like, I don't think you understand the significance of what we got here, man. This is a long trackway with different examples of the flexing of the foot. I was like, this is not nothing to scoff at. People go out searching all the time, and they're lucky to find one track, and we got a couple 100 yards here of tracks.
Yeah, it was quite amazing.
Yeah, the activity, it seems like this year is, I don't know if it's just this year, but it seems like, I think more and more people are getting comfortable coming forward and sharing, because every time I release a video, it seems like more and more Alaskans are stepping forward saying, hey, I thought about it. I wasn't sure, but, hearing what's going on with this person, I think maybe I'm dealing with something similar. And so they're starting to come out of the woodwork,
Well, I think that people are finally realizing that most people in the community are not going to scoff at them and make fun of the situation anymore.
Oh, definitely. Well, not for me anyway. I would never, because of the stuff I've been through, I take them all seriously, unless, of course, it's a serious, wackadoo, so to speak. But I haven't really come across any of those. Most of the people I deal with are really timid because they're not sure, because they don't know for sure what's going on. And then they end up telling me, and I'm like, well, I point out certain things like, well, that's a standard kind of hoot or a whistle, or, just paying attention to what's going on around them type of thing. One of the things that people get filled with a lot of self-doubt because they don't want to think they're imagining something a lot of times. And so, when they come to me and they lay out what's been happening, like with this guy being circled, they heard 3 different beings circling them in the grass, and it was pitch black. And every time they would turn on their bright LED lights on their side-by-side, it would go dead quiet. Then when they turned them off after a moment or two, they'd hear the movement again. So they were circled for a while. I got, in part 2, I will have the audio of the scream that they heard once they left the area. They stopped at the top of the hill and just sat for a few minutes because they kept hearing something weird on their way out when their daughter was sleeping. And so he decided to turn on his recorder when they got up to the top of the hill in an open area to where they could see better, and it was getting lighter out. And I got a audio recording of the scream they heard. So that'll be in part 2, along with the interview with him on what happened that night and what they were dealing with.
Fred, I'm kind of curious. I know you said that, excuse me, I'm sorry, that they were being followed out. He heard the sounds of like they were being followed out. Now, what do you make of that? Do you think that was sinister in nature, or curiosity, or what?
Oh, geez. Your guess is as good as mine. From the sounds of it, and them being juvenile prints, I think there was a curiosity going on with their kid, their 10-year-old daughter, because they heard 3 individuals moving around them that they couldn't pinpoint earlier. And then in that trackway, it's interesting because when I was going back and forth over it outside of the recording time I did, I was trying to study, because one set looked lighter. They weren't going as deep in the mud. Still way deeper than I could impress into it, but not as deep as this other set. So I started measuring them. One of the prints is just over 4 inches wide, and the other print is just under 5 inches wide. So I think there may have been 2 of them that followed them out, and one weighing more than the other. There was actually 2 trackways. But again, I'm not a trained researcher. I was just spitballing that. I've seen plenty of tracks before, but in our culture, typically we go the other way. It's always, don't follow them and don't whistle in the woods, and they'll eat you and steal your women and children, that kind of thing. So it was different going at it from the other side of the coin as far as actually researching something. So I was trying to be as thorough as I could going through with what was there. So even if I didn't know what I was looking at, I could at least record it and have someone who does know what I'm looking at tell me about it. That's why I sent you guys the pics. And I actually laughed pretty hard when I sent Will a pic, and moments later, he must have sent it to you because you were texting me, Fred, send me the pic you sent to Will. And it was like, okay.
I did.
I was, right. I was dealing with hit and miss signal. So I was trying to get everyone a copy of the pic. And one of my buddies that usually goes with me on my trips, I call him Squatch Bait. His name's Ryan. I sent one to him because he couldn't make that trip. And he was like, what's your coordinates? Where you at? I'm coming now. And I was like, I'll get a hold of you later, man. But yeah, it was really interesting because like the poor guy,
Fred, I told you to put your antenna up.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the poor guy, he was really beating himself up because he thought he brought me out there for nothing. He really did. And I was like, look at these tracks, man. Think about what you're saying. People get hard on themselves. They want that roar moment in the woods and, King Kong coming out of the jungle type thing. And that's not necessarily what happens every time.
Well, and I kept telling you when you told me where you were at, and I'm not going to say where you were at. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But I know that location, and I've actually been up there. And what I keep telling you, just be careful. Because there's lots of bears up there too.
Yeah, for sure. There wasn't a whole lot of bear sign, and I suspect why. I think this group was in there and the bears are just skirting around over that way. Cause the salmon are in the rivers right now and in the creek. So, it's a very dangerous time of year going into fall. Those bears that didn't get enough food are going to be looking for more food. The berries are starting to come into, getting ripe and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a dangerous time of year just to be in Alaska in general, out in the wild.
And the bears that are going to get to be food.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be anyone's food.
No.
I tell you, I'm vigilant, hyper vigilant in the woods.
You don't want to be the two-legged burrito, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. The guy asked me if I wanted to camp out there after we got back from that trip, and I was like, honestly, no. Yeah. No, I'm good.
Yeah. What are you smoking?
Right. I'll go out at night before dusk and stay up all night and listen to what's going on, but I ain't going to sleep. No way in hell is that happening.
And of course, I hope you were armed.
Oh, yeah. Security was tight. Yeah, I always make sure security's tight. I don't show the means of security on camera because then it turns the comment section into that's not enough gun. I would have used this. I would have done that, and so I kind of leave that out of the equation.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion.
Hey, Fred?
Yeah.
Have you heard anything new by chance concerning the devil monkeys?
No, I have not. I put out some feelers with some people that initially got a hold of me, but I'm waiting to hear back. I'm curious about it myself.
Forrest, did you say there were places other than Alaska?
Yes, that's what I was just. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually got out there and was doing some looking myself, Fred, online, of course. And evidently, Alaska's not the only ones that have, not the only location that has problems with them. They've had sightings in Mexico, in Arizona, even up on the East Coast, and in the Appalachians. And you know what? If we didn't have enough things out there to worry about, now we have that. But they almost, all their descriptions, it's almost baboonish is what, and especially with the tails,
Right. And what was conveyed to me is the description initially given was lemur-like, but thicker, like more robust than a lemur, but with the human face.
Well, I just wonder if
that's a creepy.
them saying they're lemur-like is because of all that facial prognathysm that you see on a lemur. And if they say it's thicker, I mean, if you look at a baboon, if a lot of people aren't familiar with baboons, they don't realize, baboons look very canid in the face. And wait till they open those mouths up and you see the canines that they have in there. And they're not pleasant creatures. And excuse me, I am so sorry. For some reason, I've got a cough. We had a brush fire here 2 days ago, and I have done nothing but cough ever since then. But baboons are not nice critters either. So I can't even imagine 4 or 5 foot baboonish type creatures running around in the woods or encountering them. I mean, it's bad enough that we might run into a foul-tempered Bigfoot, but now we get, and baboons work in groups. They don't come out after you singly. I mean, they work in groups. So that's
right. The one report said that one of the first people onto the scene of that torn-up tent, that bloody torn-up tent, was that they saw 4 or 5 of these things fleeing the scene, and so they didn't go and investigate. They just called the authorities, and the powers that be labeled it as bear predation, even though they never found the body of the guy, and that was out of Salina, west of there somewhere. And I mean, for bear predation, bears might drag the body away, but not that far. They're more interested in eating you, not trying to play hide and go seek with your corpse. They throw some dunnage on you, some piss and take a crap on you and lay on you until they've consumed you. They don't. It's not like they play hide and seek with us when they attack us and predate on us. They drag us off, into a cave somewhere where no one will see them. Bears don't give a flying rat's butt. They're not going that far to hide the body.
Well, and they're not thinking in their mind. I mean, I don't think they have the mentality to think that, oh gosh, now humans are going to come after me. But that's sometimes that's what happens, and sometimes it isn't. So they're going to eat your clothes.
Yeah, certain things. Yeah, the powers that be, and I don't think it's something that's ingrained in every wildlife trooper or anyone in that line of work. I think it's just a systemic understanding that those reports don't make it anywhere. When someone reports a hairy man or anything like that, they typically don't make it past the paper it's printed on because it ends up getting changed one way or another. I had some people that were chaperones for a park, and they had this thing peeking in their RV. And they went to the ranger and was like, hey, what the hell is this? This thing's peeking in our RV and, all this crazy stuff it's doing. And he just chalked it up to a bear. He just kept saying, well, what you saw was a bear. And, it's like that's the only thing they want to lean on. Or they'll say it's an open investigation, and that's their cop-out. They don't discuss open investigations. So,
has there been any reports on the average size of the devil monkeys by chance?
From my understanding, even the historical accounts, they're, anywhere between 3 to 5 foot tall. Probably between 150, 200 pound range, I would guess, considering how, like William was saying, that the primates have a more dense muscle tissue and bone structure and whatnot. But again, I'm not a biologist or a scientist of any kind. I'm just, Fred in Alaska. Take that with a grain of salt.
Well, that is true that the muscle density. I don't know what we seem to be having. We must have had too many beers or something, guys. I don't know. It's like we can't talk today. Anyway, the muscle density on apes, especially, is much greater than ours. And then plus, I've discussed before about the fast twitch and slow twitch. We have slow twitch muscles. We just don't. They come equipped with lots of fast twitch muscles. That's why you see most of these monkeys and chimps that they can just spring from the ground right up into a tree and then scamper away. I mean, we could never even begin to think about doing like that, you know.
Yeah, it's really intriguing stuff, though. I mean, it seems like the more and more I get out there and the more I hear from people, the higher the strangeness gets.
Well, that kind of disturbs me about them thinking that they might have been following them out of curiosity about the little girl.
Well, and some of the tracks are kind of sidestepped, like because he said they were really crawling along that part of the trail. Because after I was done recording, he just had this weird look on his face, and that's when he told me, hey, those are my tracks. And because his off-road vehicle is very distinct, it's wide-based, and it's got these really aggressive mud tires, and it's very distinct. And he was just kind of looking, and as we were looking, I was like, it looks like it's sidestepping. And then we're kind of course, it's speculation, but just the thought of this thing creeping behind them, just kind of checking them out is just a, oof.
It's what they do, though.
Creepy thought. Yeah, it is. It's exactly what they do. I mean, I got a report a while back of one using a stick to touch people as they were passing it on the trail.
Wow. That's kind of creepy, huh?
First I heard it. Yeah, like counting coup or something. It was really weird.
You know, it could be.
Stick in the hand.
I've talked to folks, like I say, you know, in Klamath Falls and other places, you know, up this way, where, you know, the natives will say that they will do the similar kinds of things like county coup. And I'm assuming that's probably the younger ones.
I would think so. Because from what the guy was saying, his name was Simeon, this happened off the Susitna River, and they walked across the sawgrass near the edge of the river, you know, because it was similar to the grass on that video, you know, 5-6 foot tall. But they followed the game trail into the black spruce, and this trail just zigzagged hard back and forth. It was just dog-legging back and forth, and he noticed the stick touch him once, but he, you know, they're going through brush. He thought nothing of it until he saw the same stick again. You know? So, and it was further down the same trail. So it was just the thought of that. You know, when he was telling me about it, he had his shotgun, but once he made eye contact with this thing, he wouldn't even level the shotgun at it. It was just that immediate thinking of, like a lot of us do, like, this ain't enough freaking gun for that.
I think people don't really connect with that either. I mean, unless you've seen one, they don't connect with the fact that when you see one, it's like, no, what I've got isn't big enough to deal with that. I just soon not.
I need to buy me an elephant.
Yeah, and usually comments, you know, come from people who haven't experienced anything. They're like, oh, I would have filled it with lead and this and that. You know, well, yeah, good luck. You know,
that's always from those who have never been there.
What would you say, Tom? Stick monkeys?
Yeah.
He was texting me. So
even when I did shoot at one, well, two actually, one through the wall, and then the one I shot center mass. The one I shot center mass, it did nothing. I mean, it didn't flinch, it didn't wiggle, it just stopped moving forward, and that was it. You know, and yeah, I heard a couple other experiences from people who've seen this really pitch black kind of light absorbing type of situation, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. And it seems like the more difficult the experience they dealt with, it's harder for them to
probably come to grips
follow
with
through with yeah, they shared a little bit and then they'd have to go. And I think for a lot of people, just getting it off their chest and understanding that people believe them is kind of a relief. And then once they get that relief, they don't want to revisit it a lot of times.
That's true. You know, and I've read plenty of reports too where, you know, the creatures have been shot at by people who've seen them, and the creatures may fall down, but they get right up and, you know, continue on their way. Yeah.
I wish the one I shot would have fell down. I would have felt a little better about it, but it didn't even flinch. And I shot it with a 30-06, man.
Yeah, I talked.
Well, now, Fred, we might not be talking to you if that had been the case.
True.
Because the others might have taken care of.
I think our saving grace was we had the river as the backdrop on that one to get out of there. Had we been fully engulfed in trees and just trying to walk a trail out, I don't think we would have been here.
Well, Fred, I want to ask you now. I watched one of your videos the other night, and it was just it looked like a camera that, and I'm not sure if it was yours or whether it might have been something that was sent to you. I was a little confused on that, but it was just looking out of and viewing out between looked like a line of trees and a grassy area in between this line of trees, and I was hearing calls and growls. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's I have a few of those videos. I'm trying to think, and I have a bunch of unpublished stuff too, just because people will reach out and share with stuff. I'm trying to think which one. Do you remember what video number it was?
I don't, and I should have. You know what? I should have looked that up before I asked you about it, because you would have probably known. It kind of looked like you might have somebody might have been in a vehicle looking out a side window, is what it kind of appeared to me. But then I could be wrong about that, so don't hold me to that. But I just thought this is really, really bizarre. There's something out there, because the growl didn't sound like a bear growl.
Right. One of the videos I had posted was of a lady took some footage from Delta Clearwater up in the interior, and it was the one with the owl hoots, but there was growls in that. And then as soon as she mocks them back with the owl hoot, because she was just like, kind of like, what the hell is this crap? So she imitated them back, and as soon as she does, in the background you hear that whooping. It's just one whoop after another. It's just whoop, 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 whoop.
Okay, well,
that
wasn't it, because there was no, I only heard one call in this. There wasn't any whooping. So.
There's also the footage from Sellewick. Sometimes people will send me footage, and I'll just put a blip of it at the beginning of a video, and just to show another example, and sometimes it has nothing to do with the encounter video I'm sharing. Mm-hmm. So I need to probably tighten that up so I have a better idea of what I'm putting where, because I get, people send me photos, and, it's so subjective. That's why I hate even posting them unless like they're clear tracks. I don't mind posting tracks because, they're subjective themselves, but in context, it kind of, but like photos of a Sasquatch off in the brush, and all you see on the photo is this dark figure. If it even looks like a figure, it's far too subjective, in my opinion, to just post publicly, because it means more to the person who took it versus who's looking at it.
Exactly. Well, I'll have to privately get with you. I'll look at the video back up, and then maybe we can talk about it at some other time, because I thought it was pretty spooky, actually, listening to it.
Yeah, definitely do, because sometimes I don't even use the full video, so I might be able to send you a sound file of a complete versus just, because I listen for the most intriguing stuff if it's a sound file, and then kind of have it condensed just because I don't like my videos to be very long.
Yeah.
And that's
I'll look it up.
And my videos aren't very long most of the time because I'm lazy about editing. So I prefer to just get it one and done. And, I hate having to sit and dabble with the editing software for any longer than an hour.
Well, you do an excellent job, irregardless.
Oh, I appreciate that, Forrest. Yeah, so I think the plan is actually this evening we're going to go out at dusk, a group of 4 of us, and sit out all night and see what happens out in that area. Because as the crow flies, I mean, it's not all that far from what you would consider civilized Alaska, if you want to put it in those terms.
Hey, Fred. This is Tom. If you're going out tonight, do any of you have I know a 30-06 doesn't work. Do anybody have a 460 Weatherby?
Yeah, there's I think one of them's a 50 Beowulf, 454 Consul, 4570. There's some heavy hittings going on. So
that'll do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely be ready. Like the guy I went with, he had the 50 Beowulf and an AR platform, and he had a stack of magazines, man, with these lipstick tubes sitting in that thing. And I was like, all right, looks like you're ready and prepared for something here.
Well,
yeah, there's
it's surprising that actually, when you did say that it wasn't that far, because the location isn't that far from what we would consider civilized Alaska. So.
Yeah, but that's a loose term, as you well know, Forrest, because you step off your driveway. There's no boundaries up here when it comes to the public.
Oh, yeah, I know. People don't realize that it's under 1 million people that live in that vast land of Alaska. So, you got plenty of, feral forest out there.
Well, yeah, we can fit 19 states into this one. I think there's like 780,000 residents here. Patches, come. Hold on, I'm sorry, I got my dog outside. Come. I'm over at a friend's house right now because my internet was down and I was using their internet to do some stuff I had to on my laptop, and I brought my dog with me, and she's a little spastic because she's not used to being over this way.
Hey, there were some pictures I know we were going to talk about, Forrest. Remember the guy holding what looks like a dog or some kind of a canine with little human hands?
Fred.
Yeah,
Fred.
I did a reverse. I had a guy do a reverse Google search on that, and that picture originated in 2012. Some El Negro something in South Texas hunting ranch or something along those lines. So I heard conflicting backstories. So one I heard was the one that was told to me, that there's about 20 of these things in a barn and they shot one. The other one I heard was there was 3 of them in the desert. One attacked the group of hunters, and that's how they got it. So because it was convoluted, I just kind of dropped that and just let it be. But there was no tampering of the image at all. It was just the backstory was kind of.
Yeah, it was very bizarre looking, and I mean, it almost appeared to me like it might have been, and of course, it's kind of the way he's holding it. It's kind of hard to tell because he's holding it up by the scruff of the neck, and then you're looking straight on at the belly of the beast and the legs. And the thing that I remarked about, and I can't remember now if I said it to you, Fred, or whether it was to Will, but it looked like from the front legs and the back legs and the belly had been shaved. And did it appear that way to you guys? Because that was the only thing that I found a little disturbing, because those front hands, and they look like hands, those front legs. I mean, they look like hands. They almost reminded me of a juvenile macaque. And the back legs, they just, they look like long feet, like that off of a monkey. And then I started wondering, could it possibly somebody have sewed that onto the creature to make it look that way? I know people will do some bizarre things, but it might not be. I'm just suggesting that maybe that might have happened. It was one weird looking critter.
It was presented to me third hand. Someone asked me, "Have you ever seen this?" And then they sent me the photo. I was like, "What the hell is this?" You know what I mean? So, like I said, the image is legit, but the context of the image, I couldn't vouch for, nor would I want to. Because then holy crap, that's a
no. I
thought.
understood totally that you had gotten it third hand, so it wasn't anything directed at you. I was just trying to figure out, okay, how could this possibly be accomplished here? And I think I did tell you that I was kind of distressed about the fact that the legs were shaved and the belly was shaved too, and that would be understandable if, now I'm playing devil's advocate here, guys, that if it was monkey arms and monkey legs sewn onto this, it looked like it might have been a coy dog. We have them out here, coy dogs, coyotes crossed with dogs, and they're worse than the coyotes, and that they might have wanted to shave that area, because that's a totally different color than what the beast was that they were holding up. This dog-like critter that they were holding up would have been two different colors, and so by shaving the area, it might have led to make it more believable. I don't know. It's your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, hoaxers, man, are dedicated. It's like, I don't know what drives them, but all it does is, I think some of them are like, oh, it'd be cool to get a bajillion views, and that kind of thing, which is, hey, to each his own. But a lot of those things these hoaxers do, it just muddies the water. So when, legitimate people come out, they don't even want to release their stuff because they just know that it's going to be immediately debunked and shot down. And, and it's unfortunate, And I encourage anyone who has that kind of outlook, like, well, I have footage and I have this, but, it'll just be shot down. I say release it anyway. Because regardless, you may come across someone who has seen something very similar to what you're releasing or what you have a photo of. And, it might be pertinent, it might have some bearing on the whole situation. So.
The glare on the tongue and at the bottom of the belly almost makes me think it's plastic.
Oh, on the photo of that, what was purported as a dogman pup or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I mean, yeah, I had my tech guy run some filters over it. And if you've seen the 3 copies, it does kind of have that strange look, but what struck me is how wide set the front shoulders are. The shoulders are way off to the side versus what a regular canine would be.
Yeah, they're pretty good size.
There were a lot of peculiarities about the whole picture.
Right, and let's say it is legitimate. What do you do with that? You know what I mean? What do you? What does Mama look like? And is she upset? I don't want to be around that.
And that was supposed to have come out in 2012.
Yeah, that photo was released 2012 from a hunting ranch, South Texas.
Huh.
There was some images on the Jeep that the tech guy was able to narrow down and get the information on. I guess that photo went through the ringer on a bunch of different sites. One, some praising it, some condemning it, and some people coming out saying, "Oh, I hoaxed that," or "This person hoaxed that." So it gets so muddied so fast. It was just like I'm not even gonna attempt to find the real backstory because it's already been, through the ringer for 11 years.
Yeah, you probably couldn't even get to the actual truth of the matter.
Right. Well, the person who contacted me is said to know the person that took the photo. So I was intrigued to talk to that person. So, and if it works out to where they actually get a hold of me and I get, the legitimate backstory and, everything that, corroborating evidence to prove that they were the one taking the photo, then I might do something with it, because then that would be compelling. But, as it sits now, there's just not enough there for me to even be interested. And plus, it's not from Alaska, so I'm kind of in a niche thing here. It's easier for me to leave it for others because it doesn't pertain to Alaska.
Oh, no, it's down here in Texas near me. Thanks a lot, Fred.
You're welcome.
It's all yours.
Send them all your way.
Oh.
Just what you need. One more thing, right?
Oh, yeah, just one more thing to have to worry about. Devil monkeys, chupacabras, dogman.
And don't forget
Bigfoot,
UFOs,
all varieties of sizes. Thanks, guys.
Don't forget aliens.
Yeah, Fred, find me a place up there in Alaska real quick. I can deal with the grizzlies.
Well, at least you're not dealing with goat.
Oh, God.
That's for Chuck.
Oh, Chuck, you can have all the goat men you like.
And Chuck's got the female Bigfoot after him.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
She got the hots for you, honey. She got the
Sorry,
hots
Chuck, I
for
couldn't
you.
resist.
That's just wrong, Will. That's just wrong.
Honey, just have another beer. You'll feel better about it.
Well, in that case,
And
I'm probably going to whiskey instead of beer.
Right, and make sure you hide during hunting season or mating season. Make sure you're well hid out to where she can't find you.
It's funny that every time we go up there, she somehow figures out we're there and she shows up.
She's watching for you.
That would be concerning. I would find a different place to go and hang out, honestly.
Oh, and she does not like it, Fred, when he brings ladies with him.
Yeah, I think I'm visiting the wrong
man.
bar.
Yeah. Right?
Oh.
Well, you know, I'll tell you a story from Skamania County back in, what year was it? Around 1990. I was in Grants Pass, Oregon, and my team members called me in southern Washington, Vancouver, and they said, hey, there's a witness out here, you know, what should we do with him? He contacted us, and I said, well, you know, go talk to him and see, you know, what the story is. So they went out there, and you know, a few days later, they called me back laughing, and they said, don't bother with it. And I said, well, what's the story? So they relayed to me that there was this guy, he was out cutting firewood, you know, out towards either Stevenson or Carson in the Columbia River Gorge. And he kept, you know, feeling like he was being watched. Well, one day he pretended to leave, and he doubled back, and here was this Sasquatch, a female. And it was apparently interested in him, and asked him if he the creature asked him if she could take him out for a beer, and he says, well, I can't, I'm married. So now this is the two ladies who were part of my team. They were at his house, and his wife was sitting there, and they asked the wife, they said, well, were you a party? Did you see any of this? She says, oh no, I was too busy watching the UFO over, you know, wherever.
Oh, God.
Will, is that what we would consider a non-credible witness encounter?
They were lacking just a tad.
God.
Yes.
Well, Tom, don't tell him about what happened to me the other night during the fire. Oh, my gosh.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I'll leave that up to you.
Well, Forrest was freaking out for a minute there or two, or actually, yeah, we were watching the fire across the road, and of course it had gotten dark, and we could see the glow behind the trees, and we had sprinklers and everything else out going, so we were watching that, and all of a sudden, Natalia, she looks up and she says, "Kay, what is that? What is that?" And I look up in the sky, and there's this line of it looked like stars going across my sky in a perfect straight line, and there was like 30 or 40 of them up there. And about this time, Forrest is about to have, I'm like, oh my God, we got a fire across the street. Now we got freaking aliens invading us. And I mean, they were in a perfectly straight line, and each one of these lights was perfectly spaced out. And dummy me, Tom kind of got me straightened out a little bit. I feel really silly here, but even telling this, but it was kind of funny now. But I called the sheriff's department and I said, one of you guys go outside and look up at the sky? I mean, because we had like 30 or 40 of them going across. And I mean, literally, they were in a perfectly straight line. And I'm like, and she's like, oh, those are our drones for the fire. And I'm like, honey, these are not drones, because there are thousands of feet up in the sky. They're not your drones for the fire. They evidently were using drones around the fire, and other people were calling in complaining about the drones because the drones had lights on them that they were watching the fire. I don't know, but the lady had been inundated about drones, and she sure didn't want to talk to this nutcase that was talking to her about possible UFOs going across the sky. And that's about that time I felt like I was, oh my gosh, what have I, that now I am definitely categorized as a nutcase. All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you later. And so I hung up the phone and I called Tom. I said, Tom, what could it possibly be? And he said, Starlink.
Well, no, I said it was either one of two things. It's either Starlink, or some of you guys out there will remember this, multiple reentry vehicles. Starlink is the preferable of the two. You know what MIRVs are, right, Will?
Aliens. Lots of aliens.
What's that, Tom?
I say, you know what the multiple reentry vehicles are, the MIRVs?
Right, those are nuclear missiles.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
Oh. Well,
and it's coming from the right direction, so who knows?
Yeah, they were. They were coming from the northwest, and they were headed due southeast. I mean, all in a perfectly straight line, which I just thought that was so peculiar. And then after Tom told me that, look up Starlink. I think maybe that's what it is. And I actually got out there and looked at it, and Jessica and I were pulling it up, and they're like, oh, that's what it was. And and it's supposed to come over to the ranch here about between 9:22 and 9:36 every night. So I guess I'm just going to have to sit out there and watch these little things go by. So
they're interesting, no doubt about it. I saw my first string of Starlinks in December a couple of years ago. I didn't know what Starlink was. I'm looking up in the sky and I'm going, a whole bunch of satellites in a perfect line. I know we're not in conflict, serious conflict with anybody that has that ability, but that sure was what I would expect a bunch of MIRVs to look like. Then I Googled it, and it turned out, it was Starlink. I hadn't heard of Starlink back then.
Well, I don't think MIRVs would come in like that. They'd be targeting cities, so they'd be going out. They wouldn't be in a straight line. They'd be going out to their designated targets.
Yeah, one here, one there. Right. I thought, and that makes sense, unless they were so high up they hadn't been designated. Yeah, anyway, it was, I didn't think it was MIRVs, but I knew it wasn't MIRVs. But I do remember growing up in the Cold War, right, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Thinking about that stuff.
We had to know about that stuff.
Yeah, I caught the ass end of that. Duck and cover, get under your desk like that's going to help anything. But
right?
I remember that as a kid.
And you're going to be under your desk.
Well, I remember that everybody makes jokes about that, but you know what that was for? Because if you were close enough to a blast zone, nothing was going to help you, and you wouldn't have time to get under your desk. But if you're out farther, in towns that were, say, 40, 50 miles away from a blast, the shock wave would knock things down from a ceiling. And the desk was there to keep that stuff from hitting you in the head as a little kid.
Fair enough. Yeah, and growing up in Alaska during the Cold War, the Russians are coming was always, in the back of your mind,
Little do they know the Russians are always out there.
Well,
yeah, not that far away.
I wasn't in the Navy, but I was in the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I had a buddy of mine that was on a submarine in the Navy. And to this day, he's suspicious of trawlers because everywhere they went, anytime, they would always find trawlers, Russian trawlers that probably didn't have a single fish on board, but had tons and tons of monitoring equipment.
Hey, that stuff was all true back then. When I was stationed in Germany in the late 70s, we would always give us, instruction on to watch out for what we called smell 'em cars, Soviet military liaison mission, and they would have special plates designating those, and they weren't supposed to be out and about, near military installations and things like that. So, and then I did border duty in 1979 between East and West Germany for a time, and with the monitors that we had, we could tell how many people were in the towns along the border, and the towns weren't inhabited. They were operated by, maybe a couple dozen people, made to look like, they were normal villages and, buses running that were always empty except for a driver. And so they were really pulling all that stuff.
Oh yeah, and they did. Well, I'm preaching to the choir, but they actually did shoot people, our guys.
Oh yeah,
on across the border. So
yeah, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Our instructions were we couldn't shoot back unless we were in the line of fire.
Well,
Jeez.
But you could maneuver yourself into position. Hint, hint.
yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
My husband was in the Air Force up there in Alaska, and they used to come in and talk about they'd pass Russian MiGs up there, and the MiGs would pass them, and they'd all be waving at each other.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
we did it on the same thing on the border.
See you later. Bye.
We were up watching on the border one time, and there was this. He was a Russian sergeant. We identified him. We took the tow sights off the armored personnel carriers. You couldn't have the launch tube. That was considered an international incident, but you could take the sights up there, and the sights were amazing. They were like little telescopes, and we could look out across at a kilometer away and actually see the rank on these guys' uniforms. So this guy was a big fat Russian sergeant. And he was driving what they called a P3. It was their version of a Jeep. And every time he'd see the Americans up there, he'd give us the fingers. He was driving by.
He was just telling you he thought you were number one.
He
took
did.
the words out of my mouth.
He sure did. And he thought we were number one often.
You guys number one.
Yeah, he often thought we were number one.
Well, you guys are going to laugh here because, Fritz, you may know about this, that after we all got friendly, we used to get Russian troops and carriers that come in the NCO club, and it was always really funny in there because the only beer that they would drink is Budweiser. I wonder how they feel about that now. But anyway, no Bud Light. It was the Budweiser, the old Budweiser in the red and white can, and then they ordered vodka. Of course, we know they drink vodka, but what they would get upset about is that we have to legally pour a shot, and they have monitors on the bottle so that it pours an exact shot. They wanted rock glasses full of vodka. And, I mean, the poor bartenders would be sitting up there going, can we really serve them this much vodka at one time? And, I mean, those guys drank that stuff like water, and they never got drunk.
Oh, no.
But all of their NCOs, they come in and they're all big fat guys. I'm like, they look like potatoes stuffed in wool suits, and that's all of their uniforms are wool. And those poor guys would just, they come in there, they were sweating because the buildings, I don't know whether they keep their buildings or cold over there. The guys are probably freezing, but they come in here and they acted like they'd never seen heated buildings before, and they're peeling their clothes off,
in the early...
It was kind of comical.
In the early 90s, after the Soviet Union fell, a lot of those people, emigrated to this country and elsewhere. And I was working in Portland, Oregon at the time, and we got a lot of them that came there to work. And a lot of the guys, that were on my crew liked to sit in my office and have lunch. We worked the graveyard shift, so the guys would stay there. And there was probably half a dozen were the Russians, recent immigrants. Nice guys, hard workers. But we were sitting around talking one night, and I don't know, a subject came up about me having been in the U.S. Army, a cavalryman. And they had been in the Russian army at the same time I was in, and we were both, there in Germany on the opposite sides. And one of the guys, he kind of grins and he says, how often did you guys, were you in the field training? And I said, oh hell, I never got to see much of Europe because we were in the field 10 months out of the year. We were on the move training all the time. And he says, these guys kind of looked at each other and he said, all we ever did was play soccer. Our commander we never trained. His big thing was playing soccer, and that's all we did. He says, if we'd have gone to war, you guys would have wiped us out. And we were scared all the time. We were scared all the time, because we were looking at, massive Soviet troops coming through the Fulda Gap. And we were one of the few units that would have been defending everybody fleeing over the Rhine River, heading west. But that was an interesting observation. Well, guys, I hate to say it, but we're out of time for this particular session. So join us next time, everyone. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.